Good morning from WKYT News. I'm Bill Bryant, and we welcome you to Kentucky Newsmakers. Later, we'll be hearing from Morehead State University President Dr. Jay Morgan on happenings and challenges on campus there. Also, the State Treasurer's Office ramps up efforts to help Kentuckians be more financially literate. They're also announcing a record amount of unclaimed property has been returned to its rightful owners. But first, the U.S. Surgeon General is talking with us about renewed emphasis on dealing with the nation's opioid crisis that has hit Kentucky so hard. Some new public service announcements are part of the strategy after President Trump declared a public health emergency. The 20th U.S. Surgeon General is Dr. Jerome Adams, and he is joining us by satellite from Washington. And he joins me along with Eric Ashey, who is with the Truth Initiative. We'll find out more about what that organization does. Dr. Jackson, thank you very much for talking with us. Kentucky has been ravaged with opioid overdose deaths, families pulled apart. You know that. We certainly know that here. What does this new effort and strategy seek to accomplish?
Well, Bill, we know that at this point there are more people dying from opioid overdoses in this country than are dying from breast cancer each and every day. And we know it's going to take a comprehensive response to overcome this epidemic. I was talking to your own Governor Bevin in the West Wing of the White House about this just a few weeks ago. President Trump has said from the beginning that prevention needs to be part of that comprehensive response. And these ads aim to really lean into the prevention front by going after the folks who are most at risk for addiction, 18 to 25-year-olds. We know that when you talk to individuals who are in treatment, 2/3 of them say they first got started with an opioid pill before the age of 25.
Maybe even an athletic accident or something like that. I mean, this is a slippery slope that very easily traps young people, is it not?
Absolutely. We want folks to understand how powerfully addictive these medications are. Addiction can happen in a heartbeat. And these ads demonstrate the depths to which people will go, the things that they'll do which you would never imagine in order to support their addiction.
Eric Ashey, you're here with the Truth Initiative, and you're supporting the administration in this. Tell us what the Truth Initiative is. You've been around a while.
Thank you, Bill. Yeah, we are an organization that historically has focused on tobacco as a topic, but we really know a lot about public education in terms of how do we talk to the 18 to 25 audience, youth and young adults, and warn them about the dangers of products like tobacco and other addictive substances. Long track record of success. We are very committed to outcome evaluation, so a lot of science that goes into the development of the campaigns themselves and the evaluation. And as the Surgeon General mentioned, there's a lot of opportunity for us to join forces together so that we can really focus our efforts, our energy, our capacity on opioids, which is right now a scourge on the American landscape.
So, Eric, what is the best way? Do you scare kids? Do you scare their families? Is that how it works, or is it giving them, arming them with information about the power of these medicines?
It's a great question, Bill, and I think there's no simple answer to that question. And I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation that's going to take time. But we do believe it starts with education. We have a philosophy that if we're honest with the audience, if we give them the facts, we explain to them what the dangers look like. For instance, that you can become addicted to opioids in as little as 5 days. That information alone is incredibly empowering to the individuals. What we've been able to find from our research is when we share that information with the audience, with our youth and young adults, they want to take that information and go share that with loved ones and with friends. When we can start to initiate that conversation and encourage people and empower them, we think we're on to something that's going to be very powerful in the days, months, and years to come.
Well, we know it is very much needed. Dr. Adams, this is to be preventative. This is to prevent things going forward. But we're really, in a battle, if not a war, on this on the home front here in Kentucky. Our state and local governments don't have the resources to provide the long-term treatment that will get folks back to employment and back to their lives. Will we see a sustained effort on opioids, a federal effort?
Bill, you're absolutely right. This is a war, and President Trump and HHS Secretary Azar are going to be here for the long haul. This is our top priority from a health point of view. And I also think it presents an opportunity. I think if we can bring partners together, law enforcement, the faith-based communities, the business communities, and actually overcome the opioid epidemic. We can use those partnerships to help improve health across Kentucky and across the United States. But the best way to solve a problem is to prevent it from happening in the first place, and that's why I am so excited about these new ads and this new campaign and the partnerships we have with Truth and with the Ad Council.
Eric, how will this all be rolled out? Will this be television, billboards? Where will people be exposed to this message?
Well, if you think about reaching the audience, youth and young adults, this needs to be a campaign that meets them where they are engaging with technology and with messaging and advertising. So we will have a very robust television arm to this campaign. We will also be online. We'll be very pervasive in social media. We have some wonderful media platforms that are working with us in partnership. Turner Networks, NBC Universal, Google, Facebook, a lot Amazon, Vice Media. So you'll start to see these ads rolling out later on in June in just a couple of weeks. And we're very excited about that and very thankful that we have so many people that are bringing their assets to bear to help us with this battle.
And Bill, we want families and friends to have a discussion about these ads with each other, with their children. Awareness. There's an information deficit here, and we absolutely want to address that deficit. Prevention is the way to go.
Dr. Adams, one final question. Is this taking up more of your time than you would have imagined in terms of the emphasis you're having to put on opioids? You have a responsibility for all health concerns in the country, but I have to imagine that walking into this could have been surprising.
Well, personally and professionally, it's taking up more of my time than I could have ever imagined. You may know this, Bill. My own brother suffers from opioid use disorder, and that's why these ads are particularly hard-hitting for me and why I'm so invested in this. But again, I'm convinced that if we can get this right, it's going to have a spillover effect in terms of positive health and positive partnerships for the rest of the country. So it's a challenge, but it's also a great opportunity.
Well, we appreciate the opportunity to speak with you this morning. Thank you very much. The Surgeon General of the United States, Dr. Jerome Adams, and also Eric Ashey joining us from the Truth Initiative. And we just have to be in the position of wishing you the best, certainly in this endeavor. Thank you very much for being here. We appreciate it. And coming next, later, the president of Morehead State University talking about what's happening at the home of the Eagles. But next, how the State Treasurer's Office is trying to help Kentuckians be more responsible with their money. We'll be right back with that. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. It's been a long time since financial literacy was taught in any meaningful way in Kentucky schools. A new law will require seniors to complete a course or program so that they know basic things about dealing with money. Several agencies are stepping up to help, including Kentucky State Treasurer Allison Ball's office. Her office has created the Financial Empowerment Coalition. Her staff has developed a financial empowerment database, a first of its kind resource for Kentuckians. We're going to talk about that and how the Treasurer is also returning unclaimed property to rightful owners. Treasurer Ball has returned a record amount of unclaimed property in her tenure. Joining us from the Treasurer's office this morning is Lauren Hart Ferguson, who's a counsel there as well as the spokesperson. We appreciate you very much for coming in. Thank you very much. This is interesting. You know, we're at a place where students are being taught lots of subjects in high school, and obviously they make the decisions they have to make about going to college or getting a job or trade school, but few are leaving high school knowing much about money, about how to balance a checkbook, about credit, that kind of thing. What's happening that could change that?
Well, Treasurer Ball is a big advocate for financial literacy, Bill. She's a former bankruptcy attorney, and that has just created a passion in her to improve that in Kentucky. We're ranked 42nd nationally for financial literacy, so that's not a stat we're too proud of, and we have the 8th highest rate for bankruptcy. And so Treasurer Ball saw those stats and wanted to tackle this problem. She was a big advocate for House Bill 132. It's the course or program requirement for high school seniors that you've mentioned, and then she has launched a Financial Empowerment Coalition and database, as you've mentioned.
So she believes that just going right out of high school, these graduates need to be armed with more information because they're walking right into some big mistakes that can last a lifetime, right?
Yeah, she believes that financial literacy is an important value that they need when they're beginning independent lives. No matter what course or what route they're taking for the future, financial literacy is vital in making those independent adult decisions that they're so targeted with.
What are the kinds of things that they don't seem to know that the data shows that needs to be learned?
I think things you've already mentioned, you know, practical skills like balancing a checkbook, like working with their own finances. You know, some resources on our database target things like how to buy a house, what you should know about student loans, what you should do when you're buying a car. And so really just any practical information like that are things that we would love for students to know more about.
How do you teach them to be discerning about credit, discerning about what is out? You know, they're going to step onto campus and somebody's going to be standing there with an application for a credit card. Mm-hmm. They're going to get things in the mail. They're going to get things on social media, encouraging them to get themselves in debt early to somebody. How do you just teach them to be, you know, careful about that?
Bill, I think the discernment that you're talking about starts with understanding the facts about what they're walking into. I think when they understand more about what interest is, what compound interest is, what credit cards really do and what those mean, then I think that when they interact with those words that may be foreign otherwise, a light bulb's going to go off and they're going to think, oh, I remember learning about this. This is something I know. I'm not going to fall for this. I understand what this really is. This sounds great on the surface, but I know more about what's underneath it.
I mean, I remember literally them standing around when you're registering for classes and somebody's handing out applications because they want you to take a credit card right then.
I've heard about that. That didn't happen for me personally,
Yeah.
but I've heard people talk about that type of situation. So we're hoping that we can help Kentucky students to not fall prey to that.
Well, tell us about the Financial Empowerment Coalition. Who is involved in that?
Okay, so the Financial Empowerment Coalition, there are over 50 members. It's a group of people who are interested in financial literacy, who are advocates and experts on financial literacy. So we have members that range from financial institutions. We also have community leaders, the Councils for Economic Education, just several different members. We have some state departments within Kentucky, and they're all groups coming together to talk about financial literacy and each kind of chipping in their own input and their own advice on how to better tackle financial literacy in Kentucky.
And this also, I think, includes some of the universities are involved?
Yeah, they're the Centers for Economic Education. Many of Kentucky's colleges and universities have those housed there. But
more students need to be directed to them. Sounds like. What does the Financial Empowerment Database do? And I know this has been something that you all have worked many hours to put together, because there are all kinds of resources out there if you just know about them, right?
Sure. The Financial Empowerment Database is a first of its kind resource in Kentucky. It has over 100 resources for Kentuckians, and it's separated into 6 target communities. We call those cultivation communities. So the resources are divided.
Give me a couple of those.
Okay, so we have low-income families, veterans and military personnel. We have Kentuckians with disabilities, which ties in with our Stable Kentucky initiative, student strategies, just emerging adults. Those are for those students that are leaving high school that are making early adult decisions, just those 6 communities.
And then within that, they go to their area, and then they can find out what?
They have specific resources tailored for their area. So earlier I mentioned buying a house or buying a car. So the emerging adults, the section of the website for that cultivation community, it has resources specific to that. What should I know when I'm looking to buy a home? What do these different parts of the home buying process mean? What's closing? What's a down payment? You know, what type of loan should I get? All of those things are broken down within individual resources provided by our coalition members in those cultivation communities.
So it was, even though the treasurer had practiced bankruptcy law, did it come as a surprise to her that some of these numbers were as profound as they were?
I think that it was just something that she encountered definitely there. You know, it's something she has a passion about from practicing bankruptcy law.
And if people want more information about this program, and the law takes effect in July, but it will be next year that all this kind of rolls out, right?
Yes.
If people want more information about the ongoing efforts, or they want to seek info in this database, how do they do that?
They should visit our website. It's treasury.ky.gov. There's a header for financial empowerment, and we have that's where our database is housed, is on our Treasury website.
I think one of the most intriguing things about the State Treasurer's Office is unclaimed property. People are always fascinated by it. The fact that the state holds all kinds of things, including money and bonds, but many other things that no one has claimed to be the rightful owner of. What are some of the things that the state holds right now?
We have many interesting things. You know, we have military medals that we're holding. We have a newspaper article from JFK's assassination. We have just different articles in there, watches, just anything from a lockbox that someone thought was valuable. We could have it at the Treasury.
So generally speaking, you know whose it was, But you don't know the rightful heirs, or the connections have not come forward.
Yes, we have some bit of information about them, but sometimes it's often not enough to return on its own. So we've done proactive returns in our office. That's something Treasurer Ball's been really an advocate about. She's a big believer in property rights, and us holding this property only as long as we have to. We want to return it as soon as possible. So we've been reaching out to individuals, nonprofits, schools, and school boards to return property as soon as we can find it. And we've revamped Kentucky's unclaimed property laws this past session, and so we're looking at other ways to more proactively return that to get people's money back to them quicker.
And again, how much has she returned since being in office?
She's returned at this point about a little under $63 million. In the first years in office, she'd returned $50 million of unclaimed property. That's more than any state treasurer in the 2-year period. And then this year, at the end of May, we're sitting at about $12.5 million, which puts us on track to kind of continue that trend of record amount of returns.
How does these things end up in the hands of the state?
Okay, well, there are specific laws that govern, unclaimed property, and once they've been held for so long and they've been dormant or no one has checked on them, they're cheated to the state. So they're sent to us by what we call holders. Those are banks or other groups who have things defined as unclaimed property. They're sent to us, and then we either seek out to return them or we just hold them. We never technically own them. The state is only holding them in custody. We never own these properties.
How far does this go? I mean, I'm sure there's some bank accounts with a considerable amount of money. Are there some out there with 75 cents that you're trying to locate?
Yeah, well, there's a de minimis requirement. That's something that our unclaimed property director handles, and so there's a certain amount that they're in there that we are turned over. So yeah, we have some smaller accounts, but that's still property, Bill. So if it's yours, we still want you to have it.
If people want more information about that, or if they think they have unclaimed property, there's a database they can search, right? Put their name in, or what? Yeah.
So they can visit our website as well, treasury.ky.gov, and it'll direct them eventually to missingmoney.com. I recommend people to go to our website first because we have a pictorial walkthrough of here's what the claims process is going to look like, here's what you're going to encounter on missing money, and here's what it's going to ask you to do. So we kind of have an informational section that's really helpful when encountering missing money.
I'm sure there are lots of stories of people finding things
that are
surprising.
Yeah, there are. We've heard a story from our staff about returning stock that was, $500,000 that no one knew about. They had bought it early and then just had it lost, I guess.
From the State Treasurer's Office, Lauren Hart-Ferguson, we appreciate you coming. Appreciate it very much. We hope you'll stay with us here on WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We'll be visiting with the president of Morehead State University. That's coming up next. Welcome back to WKYT's Kentucky Newsmakers. We have a chance to catch up with Morehead State University President Dr. Jay Morgan. He's in charge at the home of the Eagles, where they're adjusting the sails, dealing with more state budget cuts, but moving forward. The university is holding the line on tuition. It could be that keeping the cost down will bring more students in, some early indicators of that. Dr. Morgan joining us. We thank you very much. You've been on the job about a year now,
About a year now.
Enjoying campus?
It's been a good year. Campus is beautiful this time of year. People are great to work with, and I can't think of a better campus to be on.
Let's talk about where things stand right now. This week, your board was finalizing the plan to hold the line on tuition going into the new year, even though you need money. So tell us what the thinking is there.
Seems kind of contrary to the trend in what's going on in Kentucky. Bill, our board this week will meet on latter part of this week and is set to affirm that we're going to freeze tuition for the next academic year. And you're right, that does cause some internal pain to us, but our strategy there is to freeze tuition, be in concert with our region, because we know the Eastern Kentucky region struggling a little bit economically. We want to make sure that we're in concert with them, but also too, we're betting in our strategy it's going to bring us more students this fall.
So providing that access.
Providing access for the region, lowering student debt overall, and early indications for the fall, this upcoming fall, show that we may have a gentle uptick in enrollment. And
we're also hearing that maybe a financial aid request statewide have increased some, so maybe some good indicators.
Seems like some good trends are moving toward higher education for maybe positive enrollment all across the state.
And you could use that.
We all could use it.
The state has cut education repeatedly for 12 years. It started during the Great Recession that started back,
12 years ago.
12 years ago. Since then, other challenges have come along, including the pension issue that is major in Kentucky. But we're the only state to be trying to move to performance-based funding without additional money going to higher ed.
It's almost like it is. We're, of course, you've heard the news over the past 6 to 9 months about the pension struggle. It's a 800-pound gorilla in the state of Kentucky right now. We've been cutting budgets for higher education all across the state for about 12 years now, and we commonly say we're getting into bone. We're taking off bones right now all across the state. Our hope is going forward on the performance funding formula. It's been in place for since July 1 of last year, 2018. And our hope is going forward that we can come back and review that in a couple of years. I'm not quite for sure it's the fairest formula for small schools like us.
The regionals.
The regional schools
seem to be having an issue. The president at Murray State recently said that Kentucky's public universities have been privatized. Do you go that far?
Well, I can't speak for Murray State University, but I can feel comfortable in speaking for Morehead State University. We're still a public regional institution. That's what we've always been, and that's what we want to be going forward. I think it is true that we're going to have to start thinking a little bit more around items that we can privatize, some of the services and so forth, in order to get out of some of the cost. I think you've seen that in private businesses over the past 1 to 2 decades, and I think you'll see it some more in higher education, but we still remain a public, regional, comprehensive institution.
You're going to continue to host the Kentucky Governor Scholars Program. I know that's very important on campus, and you're very proud to do that.
We're very proud to do that. We were just notified about 2 weeks ago that the Governor Scholars Program Board awarded us another 3-year contract that will start in 2019 and extend out for 3 years after that. So for the next 4 years, Governor Scholars will still be held at Morehead State University. And really, that, along with our Craft Academy, is a powerful piece for our campus.
Tell us about the Craft Academy.
The Craft Academy is 120 high school students, roughly 60 juniors, 60 seniors, who come and live in a residential environment on our campus, live there 24/7 during the school year. And those individuals are engaged in completing the last 2 years of their high school education, and at the same time, the first 2 years of their university education. So they essentially leave with a high school degree in one hand and roughly an associate's degree in the other hand. And while some students stay at Morehead State after completion of the Craft Academy, many go to Vanderbilt, Harvard, Yale, and a lot of other good names out there.
And you've said that that is getting some national attention.
It's getting some national attention. Actually, we were just notified a couple of weeks ago that here in the next week or two that the Craft Academy will be ranked among the top 32 high schools in the United States. Not in Kentucky, in the United States.
That's pretty amazing, isn't it?
For a little rocky outcrop in Morehead, Kentucky, that's a pretty good accomplishment.
Some campus improvements are underway, and I guess those you can do with bonding and some other ways that doesn't require actual money that's coming in. And one thing I want to do is show a camera that we often use here to show the campus, and this is the Eagle Lake that is there this beautiful afternoon.
Beautiful this time of year.
Interview. And
surprised you don't see some fishermen out there.
Right, because occasionally you do. But tell us about some of the things that are going on campus. I know the Student Center is nearing completion.
Well, the campus looks great. It's been under transformation for the past couple of years. We built a new dining complex that was completed in October of last fall. And then this October, our Student Center will be completed with the renovation and then also a small expansion. And the Adrian Doran University Center completion will be a game changer for our campus. I call it the cornerstone of campus. It's the place where students want to come, they eat, they sit around, they do all their socializing, and that will be very much a transformational piece for our campus starting in October, and we're very proud of that.
As Kentucky's economy, and particularly Eastern Kentucky's economy, is really in transition, what will that 4-year degree that is attainable on a public campus like Morehead's provide to students in the future?
Well, if you survey students that go to Morehead State University, over 50% of our students come within our 22 county service region. Morehead State University services the far eastern 22 counties of our Commonwealth. Over 50% coming to Morehead. We don't have an exact number of how many go back into the region, but if you walk around some of the classrooms and ask the students just to gently raise their hand in a wind chill survey, you'll find that more than half plan to go back into the region. And we think that's very positive for the long-term growth of the region. East Kentucky still needs doctors, nurses, accountants, school teachers, and otherwise, and Morehead has been a bedrock of training those individuals over the years, and I think that will continue.
I know you've celebrated the culture of the region with the Appalachian Studies and
we do.
Bluegrass music.
Bluegrass music, Folk Art Center, Center for Traditional Music are some mainstays at the university, and we hope they continue to be long-term.
And congratulations on an OVC baseball title.
Very proud of those guys. Yeah. Our men's baseball team a week or two ago, I'll say upset Clemson 4-3 to win the OVC, and went down and played Clemson this past weekend.
Who they beat the first time?
Tennessee Tech. Beat Tennessee Tech the first time 4-3, and this past weekend played down Clemson, and unfortunately Clemson nicked them 4-3. So still proud of those.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it, Dr. Morgan. There at Morehead State. Here's to a good year, good summer ahead. I know things kind of quieting down a little bit during the summertime on campus, right? But it's
a little calm this summer, and we're ready for people to show up in mass this fall. So it's great times at Morehead, and we're going to keep pushing forward.
Thanks for coming by. Appreciate it.
Great to be with you, Bill.
Thank you for joining us for this edition of Kentucky Newsmakers. We certainly hope you make it a good week ahead.